You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
We all need self-expression. The most effective way to express ourselves is through words. But according to the Stuttering Foundation, close to 80 million people worldwide stutter today. This is Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. After years of practicing conventional speech therapy, Anna Deeter has pioneered a new and effective approach to this debilitating habit. So now, please welcome the host of Live Stutter-Free, Anna Deeter.
Of the day, my dear friends. Welcome to Live Stutter-Free on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio with your host, Anna Deeter. And today I'm very excited to introduce my guest, Daniel Deeter, my husband, and of course the main man in my life. But he is also a very important man for hundreds of those who used to stutter, graduated from the 3-day Etalon Speech Gymnastics online course, and live stutter-free ever since. Many of them were able to enroll in this revolutionary program at the so-called discount rate because of the generosity of this man. He is the biggest contributor, both inspirationally and financially, in the creation, surviving, and development of the Speech Academy, Etalon International Non-Profit Foundation. For example, Daniel has financed the whole 3 months of the summer discount. And instead of regular requirement of $6,000 US, several stutterers from various countries were educated at only $4,500 US. It's a 25% discount. One of the most frequently asked questions I receive from stutterers who's just stumbled on the Etalon program first time is, why is the Etalon course so expensive? Why is it not covered with the health insurance like conventional healthcare professional services? Some even insist that if I have found the 100% solution for the elimination of stuttering, I must share it free of charge. So, why is the 3-day guidance of an Etalon speech educator must be expensive? And why it requires a stutterer to contribute a substantial amount of his or her own hard work? You will learn answers to all these questions from Daniel Deeter, my today's guest, the board director of Speech Academy Etalon International and the biggest giver I've ever met in my life. He is a real philanthropist. So, hey, Danny, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Basically, I have an interesting background. I myself was a child that was a bit underdeveloped, we can say in kind words, and it was through my early childhood I didn't really know how to interface with other people, and I was very, very slow in spelling and in writing. But as I grew older, my mom worked with me and tutored me and taught me using the platform of a book called Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill, which very much is a tool I've used in my whole life. I used this tool and being very successful before I was 20. I had made enough money to finance my family and their families for the rest of their life. And Anna basically got my, what I call my infection, my Napoleon Hill infection. I was working as part of her mastermind group. We set goals and objectives. And as I was taught, each day do something that's totally unique and totally different. Well, there's no doubt about it. Anna was totally unique and totally different from any person I ever met, but I recognized a latent spirit inside her.
So, you know what? Let's just go back to the spring of 2011, when a small California school district let me go. And you learned that I would no longer contribute almost $100,000 US in our family budget. So what was your reaction to my shock at that time and a bit of devastation?
I was aware, as Anna was teaching her last couple of years, that she was unhappy. The solution that the system, the establishment, was purveying to students around the world was not working. And Anna said she had a sixth sense that there had to be a better way. And I said, I will back you. I will support you. And let's see what you come up with. I knew she was a very creative person. I had no idea how perseverant and how creative she really was.
Okay, so, but what was your reaction when you learned how devastated I was when I was let go from the work? That, yeah, I wasn't happy because I didn't like the way they treated children, and I was always speaking up on behalf of children. I was always an advocate for children. So what did you do?
Basically, I said, go out, study, research everything, find a better way.
Find the better way, that's exactly right. And little did Dan know that I would find really the better way. So, can you share with our listeners what gave you kind of certainty to make your very first investment in the business that was not even an English language back then, and you couldn't understand properly, and you couldn't even control because of the language barrier?
My whole life, I was used to thinking outside of the box, stepping outside, and encouraging people to do their very best.
I even see how emotional you get right now, because, yeah, we are talking about a very emotional time in our family life, basically. When back then it was the time when we just bought the house, right?
Yeah.
A big house. And 3 days later, I learned that the small California school district wouldn't renew the contract with me. So I would have to find another job, right?
I will tell you that it was amazing. Inside of 2, 3, no more than 4 months, she had a plan, a solution, goals. Yeah. And they made sense to me. She said, there's this crazy Russian guy that wants me to pay $10,000 to teach me how to stop everybody on the planet from stuttering. I said, sounds good to me. I believed in her. I had a sixth sense again, and of course I did a lot more research on him and in her, and we talked long hours of talking about everything. But at the end, I said, I'm in. I'm with you. We'll do it.
Okay, so we are coming to the first commercial break. When we come back, stay tuned. You will hear the continuation of this amazing story that I have never told anyone. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter. You are listening
listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And today I have an amazing guest, Anna Deeter, my husband, the best man in the world for me, but a very, very important man for hundreds, thousands, millions of those who stutter. And here is why. Danny, I want you to tell more about yourself. Tell more. You're an amazing guy.
I'm going to do under duress. When I went to high school, I was very much a recluse. I didn't speak. I had no friends. And I got
First of all, where were you born?
I was born in Hollywood, California, if you can believe.
Yep. And where did you go to school?
I went to school in Bakersfield High, which was a completely retarded school. And I should say it was a great school, great football. We had the best football team, and that's why I got, not because I was smart or had a good school, but because I played good football, I got into Santa Barbara. From there, after flunking out 4 times, I read the book Think and Grow Rich, came back, got straight A's, and met a very important person in my life who mentored me, and together we decided to go to Harvard. He went to law. He became the most famous person that year at Harvard. He gave the valedictory speech.
What's his name?
Joseph Sorrentino. He wrote 4 books, Up From Never, The Concrete Cradle, and a couple more. And he was also the best man at my wedding, which was jumping ahead. But the bottom line, after doing a lot of projects, a lot of structure, I learned from Think and Grow Rich that you can do anything that you can dream about or believe in. And I didn't have the social background or the skills to do it, but I believed what they told me, and I did it. I did it. I did enough things. I started the largest school charity, the largest ski club, took on Shell Oil Company, all before I was 18. We got the beach rezoned, dedicated to us. We got a clean beach. I got the largest school charity in the United States and the largest ski club. Based on that, Harvard said, come on in, we'll see what you are. You're not too smart.
What? Don't just say it too quickly. What school was it?
Harvard Graduate School of Business.
Harvard Business School. Okay.
From there, I married a very interesting lady that brought me into Europe, and I learned a lot about life. That was my first one. And basically, I learned a lot about self-reliance and doing things, following your dreams, because a lot of my dreams came true.
Of course, yes. And can you just mention a few of your dreams that did come true when you were really young, right?
When I was really young, before I was the age of 20, I got a pilot's license, a contractor's license, a real estate license, and I figured out with my father, he was my banker, how to put together some projects that made enough money for our family, and our family is still living off of it for the rest of our lives. And that was before I went to Harvard. My dad says, why are you going to Harvard? I said, because I'm curious. Napoleon Hills is just something new every day. That was something new for me to go to Harvard.
All right. So, and neither your father or your mother never went to college, right?
No.
So you basically were the first one.
They were brilliant people, but didn't have the luck to be able to go to college. Didn't have the money.
All right. But let's go back to our business. So can you recall the time when you first watched me working with the very first student?
It was amazing. We actually thought that we should invite him. It was a big...
No, wait. Before we invited him, when you just saw me working with Roger from UK, how I worked with him, do you recall that time?
Okay, yeah. It was a big deal because it was Anna's very first student, and she had a lot of trepidation, but you know what? She went through it and pulled it off.
Right, and remember that back then, this student, the very first student, I didn't charge a dime from this student. Remember that? Yes, we did have to pay to Mr. Roman Snishko, but I didn't charge a dime. Remember that, right?
Yeah, he was definitely an experiment.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. He had a great attitude, was willing to learn. He was very tenacious himself, great personality, and he liked it so much he wanted to come and visit in person.
Right. So, and now you can tell more about the time when Roger actually came to visit us about 4 months after his graduation from the Etalon program.
Roger said he wanted to visit and get to know his mentors. And he said he'll make a deal with us. You put me up, give me a place to sleep. And he says, I will cook for you.
Oh, yeah.
You buy the meals. He cooked for us, and while he was there, Anna, they talked a lot about the class, they talked a lot about the subject, but we talked a lot about mentoring him to be a success in his life. Because this program is only a fraction about speaking. It's about following your goals, whatever they are. It's basically, it teaches you how to deal with life, to have confidence in yourself when nobody else believes in you.
Including yourself. Even when you believe that you are sick. Because yes, this is the misinformation that you were made to believe that you were sick when you were young. And you grew up believing that you were not strong enough to get rid of stuttering. You were not strong enough to solve this problem on your own, and you kept looking for help from other people. You grew up to become extremely dependent on others. So when you come to the Etalon Speech Gymnastics, we address this all. We simply teach our students so they understand that they can do anything they want in this life. And they don't need to learn to do it for a long time. There is no need for long-term practice, speech training, or cure. All you need to do is just 3 days to get unblocked. We're coming to the next commercial break. When we come back, I will ask Daniel why the Etalon Speech Gymnastics is pretty expensive. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
We are back to Live Stutter-Free on BBM Global Network and Tune In Radio with your host, Anna Deeter, and my exciting guest, Daniel Deeter, my husband, the most amazing giver on the planet that I have ever met in my whole life. So, Daniel, I would like you to tell our listeners the story of your financial contributions over these 7 years. I mean, you have contributed so much, not just financially, but kind of inspiring me, morally supporting me in my down moments, downtime. But what about financial contribution? I understand that it wasn't too much of a profit, but you saw a lot of lives saved.
Well, basically, and it gets back, one of the things they teach you at Harvard is, your market, to price yourself to the market. And there's so many people on this planet that want to stop stuttering, and so few can afford it. So my approach was, all right, let's supplement. Let's try and come up with a way that we can help a little bit. So from the very beginning, it seemed like what Anna was charging was a lot, but relative to what we were doing, what we're having, we didn't make money, or very, very little money, any of those 7 years. It was always an outgo, it was always a contribution, because there's a lot of behind the scene work that is involved in teaching a student. There was a lot of good successes. Every story was amazing because you changed a life forever.
Yeah, by the way, Daniel was my editor, movie editor. Every movie I would create, every video report about the success of every student, Daniel was the first one who I would show the video, right? But Dan, Talk about the time when you insisted I give discounts.
Well, basically, you learn when you price yourself out of a market. And I said, okay, Anna, let's bring the price down. I'll supplement the income. Let's bring it down.
That's what I'm talking about. Whenever there was a discount in the Etalon program, it was because of this man. He would supplement it because there were so many expenses over the 7 years. We have a huge overhead and everyone requires to be paid, right? So.
That's right. So anyway, going beyond the fact that the price certainly justifies the results, as you would affect an entire life, an entire family. The people, after she would do a show, it wouldn't be the person that was speaking so well. The whole family would feel relief. Now they could communicate it, and all their own guilt would be gone.
Yep. So, what would you do to make the discount happen? What would you do?
Well, besides invest.
Of course. So every time there was a discount, it means Anna Deeter would invest. So all these hundreds of students, the Etalon graduates that were able to enter the program at the discount level, they were not even aware that they were supposed to thank this man. But what can you tell me about the results of the work with the movies that you saw, how I would work making them? What was your contribution in there?
Well, basically, being a scientist, she wanted to include the whole movie.
The whole movie, which means what?
Like an hour. It was a long time.
2 hours, 3 hours.
And I said, Anna, we've got to make this succinct. The attention span of people curious is going to wane. So let's get to the main points. And gradually, she made them shorter and shorter. And there were a few instances where the whole story was amazing. I mean, really, you could do a whole movie just on the one story, the one family. I can think of several incidents. The one where the gentleman from, wasn't it Helsinki, where he was?
Helsinki?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about Hussein.
Hussein.
That I wrote the book about?
Yeah, Hussein, back here behind us, there's a picture of him.
Yeah.
His story, I mean, when he came to us, he couldn't speak English. And Anna says, first you have to learn to speak English. So the guy goes out and spends 2 years learning English. And he comes back and says, now you got to get a job and you got to work so you can afford it. He goes and do this. I mean, how many people on the planet have the discipline and the belief in themselves to do that? That was incredible.
Yes. And by the way, I want to address this phrase that you said in the beginning of our show when you said, not everyone can afford. And this is the thing, of course. In my understanding, no one carries $6,000 in their pocket. And not too many people have only $4,500 in their pocket. It's a big cost. And this cost can be explained by what? By huge expenses when you develop a new profession in this world. We have been working on developing a new profession called Etalon Speech Education.
And I want to say something.
Yes, please.
What her market is literally millions, if not, tens of millions.
Yeah.
And basically, what I saw them do is they came up with a whole new paradigm that challenged mainstream stuttering. And she was taking on the billionaires, the people making billions and billions of money. She was a little kid, and they tried everything to shut her down. Truth is a lonely path. Anna walked that lonely path, walked it for years. She took all the abuse, all the criticism, all the skepticism, and she turned it around. She continued, she persevered. That takes a strong person.
And I also remember how hard it was for you, Danny. when it was hard on me, when you saw me going crazy about this abuse, because I was abused in things that I've never done, right? Throwing rocks and stuff. I remember how hard it was for you. So we're coming to the next commercial break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about this part in our life. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
And we are back to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And we are talking today with the board director of Speech Academy Etalon International nonprofit organization, Anna Deeter, the biggest contributor to our nonprofit foundation. So Danny, could you please talk about the time when I got through a lot of abuse, through a lot of throwing rocks at me, and through being blamed in all kinds of sins in social media that I've never committed?
Well, you know, and it's funny, I'm going to take a bit of bring this current. You know, I want to tell you that Anna is Russian, and therefore the Russians are responsible for doing it. Anna was the one that came up, according to mainstream media, according to the state of California, she was teaching a questionable mythology to enhance and to cure permanently, once and for all, anybody that ever had a speech problem. So Anna basically became a target, and as a target they tried so many ways to bring her down, criticizing her on social media, phone calls, and the state of California, they reported her as being a complete quack to the state of California. The state of California sided with them because in their ignorance and their stupidity, and California is still a stupid state, by the way they run things.
No, come on, let's not generalize like this.
Okay, but anyway, the bottom line is, when we came to Florida, they embraced her. They were curious. They had to have her, she had an interview, and they support her 100%. It shows you the difference in the viewpoint if you talk and someone takes the trouble to learn what you're really all about. We are, through our mass media, subject to lies every day, and Anna was strong enough to withstand the lies, go beyond that, and talk about the real principles, and by example, leading by example, every one of her students was a success. Not one was a failure.
It cannot be in any other ways, because truth works for everyone. But because you mentioned that, I would like to tell another story. When I came to Florida, I got a phone call from the health department in Florida, and I had to report to Florida Health Department, Department of Health, I think that's the title of it. I was a bit kind of nervous when I went there, and so Dan was, right? But I said, you know what, I got nothing to hide, nothing to hide. I want to go and address this issue once and for all, so nobody would ever question whether I'm doing legal things or not. And when I came to the officer in the Department of Health Florida office, it was very funny when the first thing this lady told me, she looked at me and she said, "Oh my God, you look exactly how you do in your videos." I'm like, duh, this is me. I have nothing to hide once again. So obviously this officer spent, as she told me, about 2 weeks just studying, learning about what is it that I'm really doing. Because she got an anonymous, what do you call it? Anonymous
phone call.
Anonymous phone call.
That's the way they do. They all hide.
Right.
Nobody will stand up and raise a hand. It's all anonymous bullshit.
Actually, it wasn't even anonymous because they signed with the name of a person who who had no idea they used her name.
It was plagiarism.
It was just plagiarism. It's even more criminal. But the bottom line, they had to address this claim. So after communication with this officer, we ended up hugging each other. She even helped me. She told me, Anna, you do this, you do that, and legally you're going to protect yourself from anyone screaming at you, from anybody complaining about what you do. So it was amazingly, a person just gave me green light, go ahead. And she congratulated on what I was doing, on things that I was teaching to people who stutter and saving lives. But this is a short story. Dan, can we talk a little bit about another really expensive thing that I had to do, writing 9.5 books. 9.5. Never-ending process.
I'm a guy that flunked English 4 times, and I'm helping her edit her books from Russian to English. But you know, we both learned a lot.
Of course, yes. But I want you to recall the time when you first encouraged me to do so. Because remember, we had some lady who told, oh no, wait a second. It all started with Oprah Winfrey show. Remember Big Sunday show?
Mm-hmm.
She was inviting spiritual leaders in the world, the ones who would write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I would watch her Big Sunday show and I would listen to what these people were talking about, I would say, God, I need to write a book. I need to write a book. Then I would be able to go to Oprah Winfrey show, right?
Right.
And anywhere I would go, anywhere I would advertise my work, 100% elimination of stuttering in only 3 days, people would always respond. Where can I read about it to understand what is it that you are doing? And I would also, how can I, Russian-speaking person, write a book? I have never written a book even in Russian language, and now I would have to write a book in English? How did you help me to overcome this block?
Well, you know, what is it? Google Translate helps you a lot.
Oh, that's for sure, but you got to understand Google Translate, when you use it, the translation is horrible.
I know. So anyway, we would agonize through page by page, chapter by chapter. But in the end, it was a very good result. She got very good reviews. And by the way, this is something else they did, the dark side. I call them the dark side. They are definitely the dark side.
Yep.
They would put phony reviews. They hadn't even read the book. They hadn't done anything. And put it on Amazon, a lot of them, to bring her down. I mean, what is going on in this world and this thing is, I could speak for hours about the criminality and how they attack the good.
Yeah, that's the crazy world we're living today. And after we come back from the commercial break, we're going to continue discussing this issue because this is very important. Stay tuned. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
Thank you so much for listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. So Dan, I want you to talk about the future, the way you envision the future of our nonprofit foundation called Speech Academy Etalon International by Roman Alexeyevich Snezhko. What do you see? How do you see it?
I would talk about that in terms of 2 words: self-reliance. I think one of the most important things that this course teaches is to separate the men from the people that are aspiring to be men by figuring out one way or another how they are personally going to earn the money. So they think day after they're earning this money, how they're going to use this money to become a new person. They're going to become a person that can speak.
Okay.
So the point I wish to make, which I think is the very most important part of Anna's program, is it teaches self-reliance and the courage to be your own person when the whole world is against you. And this whole world perceived as against you is what caused your problem. She teaches you to overcome that. But as you're working day after day to get the money for her program, it reinforces the men from the boys. If you stay with it and you pay the price, then you know what she teaches you, you're going to practice and you're going to use. It's the people who have it done for them by their parents or other people who are the ones that don't use it to the degree they could. The person that earns every penny will the rest of their life remember that lesson because they work for weeks, months, and even years for getting the money to do this. Every time they're thinking each day what it's going to be like when they don't stutter. It's going to be fantastic. They now are sovereign individuals that can take charge of their own lives.
Exactly. So the most important point I want to kind of summarize is that the Etalon program enables you to gain back your freedom, your independence. You will stop relying on advice, recommendations of others. You will stop relying on techniques, method, crutches to lean on. You will gain your sovereign, independent speech the way you were born to learn and to master. So, Dan, can you also tell me the way you see the future of our nonprofit foundation?
I visualize, and I think it's part of your dream also, that we finally have enough money and enough resources, and I'm working on that, and we're very close, but we always look for other contributors that will help us take this program and make it international, where Anna can teach teachers and instruct teachers how to then go out and instruct the masses. And by the way, many of you who take the program are candidates to become teachers, or you know people that would be very good to work with. Anna has incorporated and used very well the Toastmasters program. It's a great program. Working in conjunction with Toastmasters, we can teach teachers how to become very effective speakers, contributors in their society, and basically teach the millions that have no way, no path, other than repeating and think they're locked into something that's going to last for years, when in a matter of days it can be permanently and forever, where they can be complete and whole people. And actually better, because by overcoming this difficulty, they're even stronger than the average person.
You are exactly right. It's actually funny you mentioned that, because when I have graduates and if they come back, sometimes they do come back to ask a question or two, and I also offer a complimentary postgraduate consultation a week after the course. And when they come back, it's funny because they always tell me, Anna, you know what? My mother stutters, my father stutters, and I hear now how many mistakes other people make because I speak much better than they. Unfortunately, speech education is not a part of the school curriculum in any of our schools. And this is exactly what my dream is. I dream about being able to begin educating Etalon Speech Educators so we could create the whole new profession, alternative to speech therapy, speech pathologists. They do their best. They have no idea that their training is to teach people misinformation, to make people slaves in this society.
1 second,
Yes.
I want to say. The one thing that's become very clear to me, Anna researched the history of speech pathology,
Yes.
and basically it was based on a lie, as so much in American medicine is based on lies. This is based on lies. The whole thing was a fraud from the outset, from the conception. Anybody that doubts that research it. And ironically, it was propagated first by Russians and then developed and expanded. The lie was expanded on by Americans. The whole thing is a lie. There is no research that really backs it up. It's phony baloney.
Okay, phony baloney. Yes. So we are coming to the, are we going to have a commercial break or what is it? Okay, very good. So I'm just talking to our engineer. So after we come back, we'll give you information where to go, what to look for if you or your loved one really want to stop stuttering in only 3 days. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
This is Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We are talking today about the short history of 7 years history of the Speech Academy Etalon International. Okay, so we are here to explain to people how the whole new approach towards stuttering, elimination of stuttering in 3 days has come to this world, right? So Daniel Deeter is a board director and of course my husband. So what do you say at the end, Danny?
In summation, each of you knows someone that is a stutterer. I was top of my class in research at Harvard, and I would suggest you do what any person that really wants to learn what is the truth about stuttering, research it. Anna's got over 100 videos. Follow them. See any exception. I'm not aware of one student that wasn't taught that didn't walk away speaking much better than the average person when they left the course. Much better. Many of them got on to be stars of basically the program that teaches where you go out and you speak. What's the name of the program?
Toastmasters.
Yeah. Gone on to be stars at Toastmasters, and basically what I would say, work hard, pay attention, study the truth, learn the history, and pay attention to those who have a course that works in a short time, because there is nothing else wrong with you. It's not genetic, it's not chronic. It can be easily remedied. So enjoy Anna's approach, make the effort, save the money, tell your friends. There are many, many people. Give them the courage to be unique on this planet and learn how to fix a problem, and then have a lifeline of happiness, a lifelong happiness, rather than having to live in the problem year after year.
Thank you, Danny. And I actually would like to publicly thank you for an amazing contribution of your time, contribution of your funds, personal funds. The funds have never come from any organization. It's only from the family members. And of course, the funds also have come from the students. And you gotta understand that building a new profession, we need a lot of funds, a lot of money. So developing the website, I wanted to talk about the way we developed the website, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So anyway, once again, I want in summary to tell you that this whole series of 24 radio shows have been created for your education. Please stop believing misinformation. Stop believing that you gotta be a slave of a stuttering cure industry for the rest of your life. This is not reality. The reality is that just like every person on this planet, you are born healthy. There is nothing wrong with you. The only problem you have is that you are lost. You are a bit confused. Stuttering begins here in your mind. When you believe incorrect things, you believe things that do not resonate with reality, and this is the only problem you have. basically when you discover this reality, when you discover the natural speech and life norms, and you begin following them, you immediately normalize not just your speech, you normalize your thinking, you normalize your ability to pay attention, to visualize, you normalize the way you live your life. Please study the information on the website. Study my books. I've been writing non-stop. These books, I do it not for myself. I don't have to work. As you see, I have a man who can support me no matter what I do, whether I work or not. Please begin supporting yourself. Get rid of this debilitating condition caused by you believing lies. Learn the truth. The truth is the truth no matter what. Lots of love to you. Daniel, thank you so much for joining my show, and I will see you next time, because I'm going to take a short break after this show number 24. See you soon.
Wishing you all the very best.
Yes, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.